Maj, we want to say welcome back
What's up, man?
for the last minute vibe, right?
Yeah,
All right.
I love it. I love it.
We want to talk about a situation that really disturbed me.
Yeah.
There was a recent murder in Brooklyn. A 47-year-old man killed a 47-year-old father and son. Recently, they say, he's been murdered by the police force. I just want you to break down everything wrong in that situation.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to talk about is people's misunderstanding of self-defense.
Yeah. First and foremost, I think it's important that we give some love to those slain gentlemen, the son and the father. Now, I say that, I lean in with that because of the fact that me critiquing the things that they did wrong, I don't want that to be misinterpreted as disrespect to that family. The father and the son will never be able to touch their loved ones ever again. So the critique is for lessons moving forward, not to attack them in this crazy time of grief for their family. First and foremost, firearms are a last resort to defend life. Initially, the guy that shot those two, his life was not in jeopardy. Now, there were times where you could say, okay, use of deadly force was justified. When the father showed up with the scissors and had it in this dude's face, if he would have shot him then, he's somewhat legally, from a legal standpoint in most states, he would have been justified in using deadly force. Providing the context that none of us really have that led up to it, right? Because that video was starting from him standing there on the steps. Clearly there was conversation beforehand that made the father, the mother, and the son at least poke their head out and see what's going on. So we're missing that context, and I need to say that because context matters. But based on what we're seeing right there, when the father came out with the scissors in his face, he 100% was placing himself in the spot of, you are eligible to get use of deadly force upon you. He left. He came back. The son came out. The guy that had the actual firearm at those spaces could have left, as well as New York State is what's called a duty to retreat state, which means you have a duty to retreat in those scenarios. So that means you came up the steps to their house. You more than likely knocked on their door. Content, aside, I don't know that answer, but somehow those people inside knew that you were outside. That means you came from somewhere else to that location with a firearm. And then when the argument ensued, you were right by a flight of steps and you did not retreat. You did not leave. To me, if I'm a jury or if I'm a prosecutor, I'm not a fan of prosecution for anything that's not actual crime. Crime has to produce a victim. I feel like a criminal is someone that generates victims, right? We steal your stuff or we harm you in some way. You, as that person, had the means to take that flight of steps and have that duty to retreat. So if I'm the prosecuting attorney, I highlight all of that. I say, you came upstairs. You let them know that you were upstairs. You came to the space that wasn't your space. You came up there armed for a disagreement. That is premeditated. To me, that's murder one. Simple and plain. I don't fuck with criminals. And those types of people that would take the lives of people and there's not an imminent threat, you are a fucking criminal to me. Period. And our communities do not need that at all. Hoods across America, we ain't cool with the criminal. Like, it's like black people is automatically just, oh, since you're black, you're okay with crime. Fuck no. And so those types of guys create that space. So there was a lot of things that were done incorrectly on both sides. And unfortunately, it cost 3 lives. Because that guy is, based on, the stories, now this dude's shot by the police.
And in all respect for the family, as you stated before, and using the context that we don't know the full story.
Right.
From what I'm seeing, I see a lot of ego. And ego is the number one killer. Pride is the number one source of loss of life for men.
Yep.
And like the brothers need to understand that you have to preserve your life.
Yeah.
Like people aren't thinking fire.
Listen, I carry a firearm pretty much everywhere. Actually, I can remember the last time I went outside specifically to not carry a firearm years ago. It was Hawaii, years ago. And I remember saying to myself, This is way before Black Guns Matter or any of that, Solutionary Center, any of that. I remember saying, because Hawaii's very anti-gun, and at that time I didn't fly with firearms. And I remember saying, if my ops get me here, they deserve it. I was in Hawaii, I was in Honolulu for 4 days, and I was on the beach, and all I did was like smoke cigars and like drink for like 4 days. And that's the last time I actively made a decision to go outside, specifically for an extended period of time without a firearm or some form of arms to defend myself. Any other time since then, when I'm walking around with a firearm, I am the squarest dude you'll ever come across. I apologize for things that are not my fault. I deflect, I avoid confrontation, and I don't want no smoke with nobody. The reason why that's very important is, for lack of trying to sound like a tough guy, right? I know where I'm going to take it if you put us in this situation. I have a responsibility, men, young men, and I'm specifically talking to men because generally it's men. You have an obligation, a duty, a responsibility to get home to your family, right? If this isn't worth going to prison for the rest of your life over, you should walk away.
I just thought about something else we definitely need to touch on.
Yeah.
This event, a lot of people are going to argue this is the reason people shouldn't have guns based on his reaction.
Yeah.
But that reaction for gun owners, not illegal gun owners, is a low percentage of people who would react in that manner. I don't even know if he was a legal gun owner. Let me be clear.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if the man was a legal gun owner.
Yeah.
But I know people are going to have that argument. What would you say to him?
They're not paying attention. Like, first and foremost, I got to take people to the numbers, right? Annually, there's about 300,000 times a year somebody uses a firearm to defend life. That's called a DGU, a defensive gun usage. That's 300,000 times on the low end. 300,000 times somebody produces a firearm and says, stop being the bad guy. The vast majority of those are non-lethal. Nobody dies. There's 30,000 deaths associated with any type of firearm annually. 60% of those are suicides. A lot of those are beef. They outside, they doing what they doing. So when people say things like that, when they go, oh, this is why guns shouldn't be a thing, they don't know the numbers. They just don't know the numbers. 10 times more than deaths associated with firearms, and 60% of that 30, 10 times more of that is somebody using a gun to defend life. And that's the low end of the annual numbers. At some years, it's been upwards around almost 5 million times somebody's presented a firearm to defend life. So those people don't really understand, and I get it, because I'm not going to try to make those people sound like they're just evil people. They're Americans, they're humans. They just want to end to the trauma. The problem is they don't really know and understand that firearms protect life in America way more times, and that don't produce death. It protects life way more times than death is associated with firearms. And those people aren't aware of the Second Amendment and the Constitution. Now, a lot of them people going to be from our neighborhoods. They're going to say, well, when the Constitution was written, they didn't mean us. I don't give a fuck what they meant. I don't care what they meant. I care what I'm using this for. I'm using firearms in the Second Amendment and my ability to stand my ground to defend life. You know, what they're trying to unfortunately associate together is irresponsible people that don't train, that happen to use firearms in a negative way. That number is drastically lower than people that save lives with firearms. That's like saying last year, however many people drowned. So you shouldn't have a pool in your backyard. You make a decent living and you don't want to go to a public pool, you should get a pool. Pools are the shit. And black people definitely need to learn how to swim. As racist as that might sound, right? I just learned how to swim a year ago. So I'm grouping myself in the same, you know what I mean? But the reality is they just unaware. And everybody say that, right? Until we all in the movie theater. And then we look at people doing dumb shit in scary movies. And don't know, everybody in every movie theater goes, oh, so don't nobody got a gun. Don't know, here come the killer. Don't nobody got a gun. So you understand it. It's a story that I'm I want to say this last part. It's a story about this God-fearing dude and this atheist that were on a plane together. And the plane's going down. The plane is about to crash, right? And the atheist dude is there, and he look at the believer, and the believer look at him, and they both start praying. And then things clear up. The turbulence ain't crazy. They got a great pilot. The great pilot gets everybody, get them 200 souls landed smoothly. And the atheist looks at the believer, and the believer looks at the atheist, and the believer says, your secret's safe with me. In times of turmoil, everybody goes to what they really, really believe and know. So all of those people that will be saying, that's why we should get rid of guns. If a rapist is chasing their daughter, they would 100% want their daughter to have the training and the tool to defend herself from the murderer. If you happen to Last Action Hero go into the movies with the golden ticket and the killers is chasing you, you 100% want the firearm.
And last thing I want to touch on.
Yeah.
I know you're an expert at conflict resolution,
100%.
right? Break down the situation, what should be done for those who will find themselves in the situation. I just want to give context. The gentleman, Mr. Pass, is documented that he did call 311 about 8 times since March 2022. So it's been an ongoing thing, right?
Now, that's the dude that did the shooting?
That's the guy that did the shooting.
So he called a bunch of times?
He called a bunch of times, complained to management. That is documented.
Yeah.
That's what they said. Many people go through this where they just kind of reach a breaking point. What advice would you give to people who've been dealing with a long-term aggravation with other people?
Move. Sue them. Like, toothpaste don't go back in the tube. Rounds don't go back in that barrel. I don't care that you called 3 times the management 311, and I do not give a fuck. The moment you are either being a safe and responsible firearms owner that is a solid representation of what being a solid gun owner looks like, or you're not. There's no gray area. In the moment where you're being irresponsible, at that moment, you're being irresponsible. And in that moment of irresponsible choices, you deal with the outcomes of those irresponsible choices, generally. Or maybe you don't. That one time you got sneakily by. But you know, like DMX said, never expect to get away with the same shit more than twice. So him calling 311 and calling management for March, I don't give a fuck. You went upstairs with the intent. You walked into a gunfight. You walked into death. You walked into other people dying. And you walked to now law enforcement officers having to kill you. Now that law enforcement officer, I don't know what his body count is, but now he got to deal with that for the rest of his life. He took a life. You put everybody in that scenario. I don't give a fuck about your 311 calls. I don't care. Now you make me look bad as a gun owner because now the manipulative sections of the anti-gunners are going to say, see, this is what happens. You get a gun and you go crazy. And it's not the case. Now I got to push back, and all responsible gun owners, especially if it's Brooklyn, that's New York City. The Supreme Court just overturned the carry laws in the cities, more specifically before the state of New York, in the Bruin decision. Black Guns Matter. We are cited in that Supreme Court decision. Now you make it more harder to say, see, this is what happens when people are able to carry guns. This is what they do. So I don't give a fuck about him calling 311. Here's how that situation should have went. If I'm the guy that's deceased, that's the shooter. I don't go upstairs. If I go upstairs, I don't take a firearm. If we gonna knuckle it, if that conversation is, man, bring your bitch ass outside, we gonna get into it. Meet me back out front. You gonna stop stomping on top of my head, whatever that is. Come, let's fight. Go to the gun range, have a competition, go race, go box, get on the mats, roll it out, fight. I don't care. But at the moment that you go upstairs with a firearm, you prove the intent of I'm going. If I have to take my gun somewhere, I'm not going. Not I have a firearm just in case something happens. If I go,
say that again so people.
You get what I'm saying?
No, say that again.
If so I have to, if the situation is, man, you're gonna have to take your gun over there, I'm not going. The bad guy gets a say. You don't win because you the one with the gun all the time. If I have a firearm just in case something happens, I'm good with that. And so that guy should have never went upstairs. That guy should have moved. Man, management's not doing anything about this. I've complained a bunch of times. I got to figure something else out. That's his answer. Now let's go to, with respect, let's go to the father. Let's go to the, I'm going to assume that's the wife. And let's go to the son. Everything that they did was wrong. The one person that I could give a little bit more credence and support for was the wife. She actually looked like she was trying to avoid that conflict. She actually looked like she was attempting to calm things down. But what did the guy do in his ego? Ignore her, walk past her, because that guy wasn't about to shoot the wife. He had the gun the whole time. You come outside with the scissors, pointed in the man's face. He actually should have shot you then. If I'm talking about from a legal standpoint. Morally, I think all of that was wrong. But I don't mix moral conversations with legal conversations. I explain my moral perspective and my legal perspective, right? He didn't listen to his woman. That's an overarching theme with egotistical men. I got this, babe. No, you don't. That got you murdered. You know, that hole is going to be in your family forever now. Because you didn't want to just, man, I'm ignoring him. That guy didn't come upstairs. And again, I'm not saying this guy's right. Based on what we saw in that video, that guy didn't come upstairs and shoot through the door, try to kick the door in. He didn't do that. That guy also, you went back in the house. Stay in the house. Now your son comes out to see what's going on. Now the son runs up. Now you get your son shot and murdered and killed. Now that's the last visual that anyone, including everyone on the internet, has of you. Now your woman is behind that door crying because you led with your ego. The thing that we want to tell everyone to do is evaluate your actions. The human body, this is where training comes in so much. The human body has this thing called the hypothalamus. It generates drugs and high stress cortisol, adrenaline, peptides, and they go into your bloodstream. If you don't train to make your body responsive in a different way, your hypothalamus will create chemicals that damn near get you addicted to adrenaline in scenarios. You quite naturally become addicted to your emotional states. Training allows you to evaluate things without the tense situations, so your body's dealing with this normally. Now you're not thinking logically. Now you've become addicted to the emotional highs that are associated with stress and drama. Training actually helps you get better at that. We got a saying that we say, me and my guys used to say is, if this is not worth us murdering this person and we could beat the case, we should walk away. Is this something that we should murder this dude and figure out a way to murder this person and get and beat the case? Is it that deep? Yes. Do what you got to do. 99.9% of things are not that deep. That situation there from both sides, all it ended with was death. No one won. And everybody in that scenario thinks they were right. Everybody thinks they were right. They not going to be stomping on my head. I already called. I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to show them. You're wrong. You thought you was right, though. He ain't going to come up here knocking on my door telling me wrong. But you think you're right, though. And there's a certain level of, I get what you're saying. Well, I get why you think you're right. I get why you think you're right. But you don't get anything for being right. You get something from making the right decisions, the right choices. And in that scenario, I completely avoid that. Every single person outside of the wife, I think, and I don't know what the wife did on the inside of that door. Every single person involved in that scenario did the wrong decision at the wrong time. And the son, you jumping out there. You see he got a gun, right? Everybody run, get in the house. Everybody run, get in the house. Everybody in the hood think this is based on being tough. Think that, like, I ain't gonna let nobody punk me. what do you win? What do you gain? We've been told that this question of what do I get from this is a bad question. It's not. If you're being like completely like evil and to the exclusion of everybody else, yeah, I see how it could be painted that way. But generally, when you're in a space where it's like, what do I get from this argument with this person? Is there $1 million, $10 million at the bag at the end of this competition? No. Why am I doing it? And I think that training, again, lastly, these people are not operating within the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. The OODA loop. I'm observing what's happening. Okay. This the same dude I've been arguing with for the last few months about noise.
Nothing's going to change.
Nothing's going to change. I orient myself. Where am I at in relation to this? I'm under it. Did I do everything possible that I could before I go get a firearm? No, I didn't. I may have to move. I don't like it, but I may have to. Is my ego involved in this? Yeah, it is. After I've ascertained that, I have to decide what I'm going to do with that information. That's the decide part. Do I go get my gun and do I go potentially shoot this person or get shot? Because to him, that guy upstairs stomping is the bad guy. The bad guy gets a say. I go upstairs, I'm talking shit. How do I know he don't open the door and try to shoot me? Bad guy gets a say. I decide and then I act on that decision. The person that wins and stays alive is the person that can go through their OODA loop process while slowing the other person's OODA loop process up as much as possible. And in that scenario, he had plenty of time to decide that in his own mind before he decided to get armed and go upstairs. And he just decided wrong. Same as the father. I'm observing that this motherfucker really just came upstairs and knocked on my door about some shit that, like, okay, does he have a point? Damn. Maybe I'm from a different country. Maybe I don't recognize. There's nobody upstairs. What does that sound like upstairs? Maybe there's nobody upstairs for me what if he works at night? I'm orienting myself, right? I'm observing what happened and I'm orienting myself to that situation. I decide, damn, maybe I did the last 3 times. I was being a jerk to that dude. I decide and then my actions is, bro, man, this ain't worth it, man. If every single person in our communities understood the OODA loop and that process, I guarantee you we could get rid of 50% of the homicides.
Probably more, yeah.
Probably more. But that's not what happens. People don't train. They don't know what that OODA loop is. They're operating off of what they think is unchangeable genetics. You know how many people say, well, that's just how I am. They're justifying their lack of improving their character through training and skill as some sort of genetic thing that that's outside of their control, and that's false. Well, I just can't help it. Yes, you can.
Last thing I want to say is that I know you're doing it in the context of training for firearms, but we also need to have training in regards to, what's the term they use now? Emotional maturity.
Yeah,
I think that's just what's lacking in regards to. There's another term they use. What term? This is one of them buzzwords. It's like emotional maturity.
Emotional maturity, healing from trauma.
Yeah, all those things.
All of them fucking words that they.
You just need to be more
an adult,
mature and less
toxic,
emotional.
Yeah, toxic, emotional. Really, it's more so. It's more so. Not more so. I try not to use those words when I'm like a hipster kind of, like when it's just buzzwords. I'll be like, but the buzzwords kind of make sense, right? I am an emotionally stable, mature adult. Having a gun, you got to be the adult in the room. So it ain't hard over time for you to be like, I think about it all the time, every day. When something happens, I was at the carnival, like a fair, maybe a month ago. And somebody tried to cut in front of us in the line, and I saw it. And I was just like, because if I say I was here, and if they go back and forth, then her guy has to say something, then we got to do this thing. Then what do I get from that? Is this the end of the carnival rides? Is this the last ride? If they are right in front of me, We're done for the day. And even if that was the case, so go to another ride. I don't care.
And I think we need to add one more part to it. For the dudes, man, it depends on what lady you are. 'Cause I saw a lot of ladies boost dudes up too. Like the dude may be calm, but the lady may kind of create this vibe where he begins to behave in a manner that's detrimental to himself and his family.
Those type of women.
We seem to be a lot. No disrespect to the women.
No, I'm being very disrespectful to those women. 100%. You, if you one of them bitches, I'm disrespecting you, and I chose the word bitch for a reason. Men got to get away from them women. If your woman isn't saying it's not worth it, it got to be imminent. Your woman should also be training too. So she's like, and she should be armed. So it's like, the question should be the question that we ask ourselves all of the time as armed, safe, and responsible gun owners. Is this worth me murdering this person? Because some things are 100% worth me. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to fucking end you. I'm 100% going to end you. That's like 3 things. There's like 3 million things that happen in a day. 3 of them will get you shot by me, right? Attempting to kill me or my loved ones, or just like putting life in imminent danger. Even putting life in imminent danger, I might clear my garment, present my firearm, keep my finger indexed, and issue commands. I might say the most disrespectful things in the world to you to scare you to stop with the machete, right? And then issue you into submission. And I still don't have to take your life. Defensive gun usage. But like, the question that you and your woman should be asking is this, y'all got to be on one accord. Is this worth us lighting this motherfucker up so great that we going to get a parade? We going to be on the float like a beauty pageant. Like, yes, we stopped the bad guy. You know, if it's not that, your woman pumping you up to go in that direction, if I don't even care if it's gunplay. If she comes back to you after this dude slapped me on the butt on my way home, I got in the car, I drove here, and I came to you, we going back up there. He work at this gym. She's setting you up. She's setting you up. If you not training with your woman to avoid those conflicts and not put herself in certain situations when you're not around too, you're setting her up. Training solves a lot of this. And that training is in relation, you selfish if you the only one training or you the only person talking about how we gonna maneuver. It's like I'm attractive to a lot of gay dudes, right? Some of my best social media friends that are big supporters of Black Guns Matter are like, ooh, Maj, you are so attractive. I'm not putting myself, thanks, bro, I appreciate that. You know, it's good hearing a compliment, cool. You know I'm straight, you know, whatever. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where the straight dude trying to slap me on the ass. It's not happening. It's just not happening. And that comes from training. And if I'm going to say that about me, and I use dudes because women generally ain't doing that, and I'm still doing the same concept with women, I don't even look at women in the gym. Then it's selfish of me to not train my women the same way. Woman. I'm saying women generally, not my, multiple women, but some people into that. Like all of you, if you got the harem, Floyd Mayweather, and you can afford them, train all the, Floyd, send your women to Black Guns Matter so we can get them trained up too, Floyd. But that's the part where it becomes selfish. And that means if she does that the first time, you have to immediately start communicating with her. Women start wars. It's Helen of Troy. In that movie, you ever seen the movie Troy? She got all of the good dudes murdered. Orlando Bloom, still alive. The sucker. Brad Pitt's character, dead. Orlando Bloom's big brother, solid prince, solid leader, dead. Her, alive. Agamemnon, his corrupt brother, dead. All of the solid dudes dead. Women will start wars inadvertently. And if it's not intentional, and if you have that type of woman, it's your responsibility to start putting her on the game and going like, we're not doing that. You're not putting me in that space and I'm not putting you in that space. And if I know that you're solid, and if it's somebody else putting your life in imminent danger and I'm around, man, we gonna light you right up. We're gonna light you right up. We're gonna stop the threat to life. We're gonna light you up. And we might fuck around and get a picture for the gram over top of you because you the bad guy. You the villain. We might get the prison pick on top of you because you the criminal and you put our lives in danger. But if that training isn't there and you haven't created the distinction between the two, and if you have and your woman keeps doing that, that shouldn't be your woman anymore. This overall conversation with the death that's associated with these bad choices by this shooter primarily, and the unfortunate bad choices that came from the other victims, this all boils down to, I bet $1,000 to donuts that none of those people train. I'm not gonna allow you to move me on the chessboard. I might bait you if you're a bad guy, because I don't think bad guys and criminals should be around. So I might bait you if you really doing bad shit. We might bait you, but if you're a good person, nah, we're gonna protect life. If you're trying to bait me into a conflict, you know, we just gonna laugh at you. You know what I'm saying? My girl got a big fucking ass. It's a real big ass. I'm not gonna allow her, and I mean, like, guys, if your girl's got a big ass, you should have a conversation with her about some of her clothing choices. Not because you want to stifle her voice. I don't know why women's voices is their ass, but whatever, right? But you should have a conversation with her about, it's some thirsty people out here that are creeps. You know, my nana used to say, you show meat, you get dogs. And if you don't want these hungry dogs and wolves and vile people coming your direction, your training, your conflict resolution, your de-escalation, and your avoidance, preemptively even, should be at the top of your priority list.
Max, thank you so much, bro.
No doubt.